Hello. Welcome to Tuesday's video, and I hope you all enjoyed yesterday's curious case of Craftly Hall. These are today's freebies. We have our investigators, Ernest Brundle, Carl Edwards and Dorothy Blakely, who took part in the investigation at Craftly Hall. We have a little Craftly Hall possible house, and we also have a little map of what Lower Craftly may have looked like. There's also a few other little bits included. So that's how you get the freebie. Also on the website, it's going to be under the Craftly Hall tab in the members area. There is also going to be a PDF of the transcript of the story, which is actually a report written by the investigators after the case was solved. Now, what I have done, I have this vintage paper which I got from Amazon a really long time ago and haven't used it, and it is a vintage style paper. So I've cut it into A5, which is cutting it in half basically. So I've cut the paper in half and I have printed it onto A5 paper. And this is what I'm going to use first of all. The first thing I need to do is distress this a little bit. So what I'm going to do is just give it a bit of a wrinkle. So I'm just going to do a little bit of scrunching just to make this look like it's been around for a long time, and all will become clear later. And then I'm going to grab my, oh, that's a little bit tatty, isn't it? Oh, okay, I'm going to use, I think I'm going to go for walnut stain, and I'm just going to ink the edges of every page. So these have all been inked, and we now have our story, or our report even. Next thing I'm going to grab is a file folder, and you can use any file folder. This is a kind of vintagey old one. It was a hanging suspension file, so I'm going to use this. I've made a few marks on my file folder. So I've got the opening on the left hand side, and I've made a little pencil mark here at 6.5 inches. So I've put a pencil mark at 6.5 inches, and then down that crease I've put a pencil mark at 9.75 inches and 11.5 inches. I'll put those measurements, if I can, down in the description box. So I've got my 3 pencil marks. This bottom pencil mark here at 11 inches, I'm going to cut. Now the first thing I did was just straighten off all of the edges of my file folder so they're nice and straight. So I'm going to line that up, and that's now cut. The width of your file folder, just leave it at whatever it was. I'm going to bring in my scoreboard. Let's put this in this way round. I'm going to take my tool, and I'm just going to line that up roughly with that 9.75. This was the 9.75 inches, and I'm just going to score that. And I know it's going to be different on both sides, but I'm just going to score that. Then I'm going to turn it so the crease is to the left of my scoreboard, and I'm going to score at that 6.5 inches. Then I'm going to open it up, and where I've just done that 6.5 inches, I'm going to do that again on this side. So that score is at 6.5. I'm now just going to come across and score again at 6.75. Now that's going to be way bigger than we want, depending on how much you intend to put in your file folder. Right, so I'm going to open this up. I'm going to fold this up, and what I love about this is it is a very, very tatty file folder, which is exactly what I want. So this little bottom corner here, I'm just going to cut that off. of that. And then I'm just going to fold those 2 creases in. So we've got a really little spine. So then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut either side of the fold in the middle here. And this is going to be a really, really simple file folder. We're not doing anything complicated here. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut this panel here off. So we have something that looks like that. So this flap here, I'm going to fold it in, and I'm just going to cut a little bit off that. This bit is just going to create a little pocket tab for that edge. The next thing I'm going to do is grab my corner rounder, and I'm going to just make sure this is going to fold nicely. What we don't want is too tight a crease here, and that's going to be fine. So I'm going to use my corner rounder and just round that corner, the 2 corners on this tab here, and I'm going to round the corners on this longer flap here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to angle here a little bit, and before I glue anything down, I'm going to do a little bit of inking. Okay, so we've got a decent amount of ink on there now. I'm quite happy with that. I'm just going to glue my little tab down here. It's not very sunny, but it's very warm, and it's doing weird things to my glue recently. It's gotten a bit cloggy, a bit thick. I'd have thought it would have gone more liquidy, but no. Right, so we have the start of our little folio. Now, obviously, we've got a little bit of, these are cut. It's just the way they're made. So I need to put some tape on here. And I haven't made any of the fabulous tapes that everyone is making at the moment. Grab a piece of my surgical tape. I'm going to glue it as well. So I'm going to just stick it on here and make sure it's just going to cover that. So pull a bit of that off. I'm going to use my brush and my ink, just give that a good old ink, and I might actually grab a little brush and some scorched timber, because along this edge it might actually get really quite grubby. Just add a little bit of that. Just going to grab my glue stick. I haven't bought a glue stick in a really long time, but I really needed one, so I'm just going to put this under there for a moment. Just put a little bit of glue stick there. Now, obviously, I'm not necessarily going to have glue stick in the right place, but if my tape peels up, that's fine. It gives it even more of a kind of vintagey feel and look, I think, so I'm happy with that. So that's glued into place. Now, I am going to take my hole punch and my ruler, because this is we've got 9 3/4, so we want to go about 4, just one of those big notches after 4.5. I have no idea what that is, but I know that's halfway, so I think that's going to be about the middle. You can eyeball it, it doesn't have to be perfect. And I'm going to put 2, actually I'm not going to do that just yet. What I really wanted to do is add a piece of card under here, which I forgot to do. I was going to add that underneath my tape. So I'm going to glue this into place. Yeah, what I should have done is put the tape over the top. That was the original plan, and I forgot. So I'm ad-libbing. This folder has obviously been in the office for quite a long time. You know, maybe they've repurposed it for this particular case, but it's been used in a case previously maybe, and that's why it's been repaired again. There we go. It's fine. It's fine. So now I'm going to take my hole punch, and I want 2 holes. I want one, maybe there, and then one just a little bit further on from that. We've got 2 holes next to each other. Grab my eyelets. Woo! And I'm just going to set these. Okay, so we've got our 2 eyelets in there. Right, let's move on to this little front piece. So I use my deckled edge scissors to cut around this little label which says Craftley Hall CPI 374, and I'm going to just ink this like that. No, I think I'm just going to glue this down, and you'll see why very shortly. I've got red fingers and I really had gloves on. I don't know what happened. So about halfway. We might have to, I mean, some of this might be covered up when we close our flap. I don't know yet. No, that's fine. Right, so we've got that on the front. I'm going to move to the inside, the picture of the property, and I'm going to ink it. And again, I'm using this dark ink. And I'm going to just give that a little bit of a scrunch, maybe just go along that a little bit. We don't want that to look too perfect. It looks like it's been in a file that's been battered about a little bit. Now it's going to slightly come over the top because of the height of my flap, but I'm actually quite happy with that. Okay, I'm just stapling it. Stapled that on. It's not going to cover a huge amount of that, but it's got a little bit there. And I'm going to take the case number. And I'm going to glue that here. And put that down there. Now, as you know, the case of Craftley Hall is solved. If you've listened to the story, you know it all came to a happy ending. So I'm going to use my case solved label. And I'm just going to put that here like that. So we now have this. I'm going to add these to the folder like that. And you can put any type of clip on here. I'm going to use one of these just to hold this into place like that. And I think it's great because these are a little bit tight. So it's going to kind of, every time I put that on and off, it's going to make that quite tatty. But when we open this, we can quite easily flick through the pages of our report like that. That is now there. This looks way too clean, so I'm just going to make a few little, just very lightly with my, we don't want it to look too clean. And now we're going to have a look at these pieces. So we've got our 3 investigators. It's entirely up to you who is who. Obviously Dorothy Blakely is the only female in these pictures. So I'm going to fold these in half. Now, if you wanted to make these more sturdy, you could always encase a piece of cardstock in between. I don't want to put too much bulk in, so I'm happy to just leave them like this. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue these. So I'm going to take my glue stick. I'm going to glue in the middle. I've gone to Yoo-Hoo because it's a permanent glue, so I'm hoping it's going to be pretty good. And it will save on my art glitter glue. And I'm just going to burnish that down. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim off any excess white that I might have. Right. And now I'm going to give it an ink. And again, I'm going with my dark ink. This is Scorched Timber. And I'll do both sides. And I'm going to call him Ernest Brundle. Shall I? Yeah. I'm going to call him Ernest Brundle. So I'm going to cut off my label, give that an ink. glue that down. And that one's ready. So I'm going to do the same with my other two pictures. So that is our 3 images done. This little label, I'm going to fold that in half like that. Cut that little extra piece off and glue this down and ink it like that. I'm also going to ink the map of Lower Craftly. And the final piece, which I've already done, I've already prepped, is the it's kind of the notes, really. All of the things that went into the story, the investigators would have made notes on their little pad. The Committee of Psychical Investigators, that's the name of their organisation. We've got the case number, the clients, the location, and the attending investigators and their IDs. So what I've done is I've just cut it out, inked all around there, and I'm just going to glue this together, but not around the edges. It's going to kind of end up being like a couple of pages in a notebook, really. So I'm going to put that together. And because I've inked all around the edge, I'm not worried about gluing. I'm not worried about gluing right to the edges. Back to our little folio. So I'm going to open this up. And the first thing we're going to add is our notes and the map. And then we've got the images of our investigators. So what I'm going to do with those, found a few odd pieces out here. I've got a little, the back of a vintage old ordnance survey map. So I'm going to put that in. That will fit in there. And you can add anything to make this look like a kind of vintage. So I've got a vintage Portuguese envelope here and a little index card. And what I think I might do is just kind of pile up our little, I think what I'll do is I'll add these guys to that, and I've got some faux rusty paper clips here. So what I'm going to do is grab one of my paper clips, add Dorothy to the index card, and attach, oh actually I'm going to attach her with one of these round ones, I think. Again, these are kind of just faux rusty ones. So I'm going to pop that on there like that. And then I'm going to use this paper clip to attach these guys to their envelope, which might be full of, you know, it might contain the letter that Rose and Jeffrey wrote to the investigators. And then I'm just going to pop these into our folder. So those are surplus to requirements. So this is what the inside of our folio it looks like. I'm going to close that up. Now, this is why I have red hands. I used some distress ink to dye this sari silk. Now, I'm going to attach this as though it was a legal document. So I'm going to fold that in half. Oh, let me put my pin in. Let me put my pin in. So fold it in half. I'm going to go in through one hole and out through another. Like that. Pull that through about that far, I think, maybe, might less, and then that's going to come round here and that will tie like a legal document. It's actually quite red, probably needs a little bit of aging. So I've got my little label here. Take my teeny tiny hole punch. I'm going to punch a hole in there. And then I'm going to attach this with a garment pin. To my ribbon. And I think I'll attach it that side of my holes. I'm not happy with that. It's way too new looking for me. So I'm going to take this and I'm just going to run some dirty old ink up it because it is a little bit too red. So we have our report. We have our report in here from the investigation, and the case was solved. We've got a little map of where Craftly Hall would sit, and we've got some images of our investigators, and we've got their notes. So that will close up. We'll tie this. And I'm just going to add my little, you can put some baker's twine through here. You can put some jute twine. It doesn't have to be the ribbon. Oh, and my light's gone. So there is our Craftly Hall folio. Anyway, I hope you like the freebie. I hope you enjoy the story and you will engage. What's coming next? So on Friday, we are going to be announcing the Creep on June 24. We will release the name of the people who are collaborating along with us, and we will also release a new digital kit. The digital kit will be coming out on the 24th, and it's going to be a whopping 40% off until the 1st of June when the collaboration kicks off. So if you want to join and play along with us all, then grab your kit while it's 40% off. That will be released when I do the video on Friday. So thanks again for joining us. I hope you're enjoying it and coming along on our spooky little journey. I will see you all again really soon. Bye.